It's about what happens to you and your dreams and your knowing in yourself when you get so scared and knocked off your journey, and how to reclaim.
Welcome to the Gals Off the Grid podcast, a sacred community your soul has been craving. We blend community, ancient wisdom, modern science, and the healing rhythms of Mother Earth. We cut through the noise of the modern world and guide you towards an effortlessly soul-aligned, wildly free life. We're your hosts, Susan Singer and Valentina Bain. Let's dig into our roots and go off the grid together. This is the first time I'm hearing this story. This was a very traumatic and vulnerable experience that Valentina went through, and I am so grateful that she felt called to share it with all of us. Before we get into this story, I wanted to share with you a tried and true Gals Off the Grid bundle. It is a free resource that focuses on that moment in time that happens too often when you're stressed out, you're overwhelmed, you've been at your computer for way too long, you know you just need to step outside and ground yourself. We have a grounding bundle. It's a meditation frequency. It's just a bunch of grounding goodies inside of it. And we wanted to share it with you. Valentina and I use this basically daily. And it's just a wonderful opportunity for you to just come back to your roots, come back to yourself, and then get back to where you need to go. So head over to galsoffthegrid.com/grounding, and I will also put that in the show notes for you. All you have to do is pop your earbuds in and you will be in a better space, we promise. And now, without further ado, Valentina's story.
How to get back on track. I guess I could start at my childhood story. So basically, I was very uncomfortable in my body with a lot of chronic health issues that I was trying to figure out from my earliest memories. Just being in my body was painful. Eating was painful. Digesting was a big issue. Like, focusing in school was awful. Sleepless nights over learning how to read. Went to all these special schools. Like, it was just a lot of those kind of issues. And I remember in the early years of my life feeling very homesick. And I had a very difficult time feeling like I belonged. And I just thought that would be how I felt, because I didn't know there would be another that was just become normal to me. I was 14. It was when I just started high school. It was that summer that I would be turning 15. And it was the choir for my high school that took us on this trip to Europe. And we went to Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and France. And we went to all these cities, and we had all these incredible performances lined up. And this choir, this is a total side story, but it was like we were singing a cappella in these 1,000-year-old buildings all over the place. Wow. And it just I remember our people in the choir were tearing up, us teenagers tearing up because the beauty of what we were creating together. So it was a very magical experience all in all. But it was a summer that truly changed my life. And there was this one moment that I was walking down the street in Paris, and obviously I was with this big group, and there was a lot of noise and there was a lot of people, but there was this one moment where it all vanished. And it was, I looked down this little galleyway. It was this little gate. It was beautiful. And there was a garden that I could see through these buildings. And it was so magical. And I had this feeling come over me that I had never had before. And it was like a belonging. And I thought, one day I'm going to live here. All of a sudden, nothing that I had ever, I loved singing. I thought, what will I do with singing? I loved animals. What will I do with animals? I thought maybe I would be a therapist because I loved helping my friends make up when they were in arguments. But all of a sudden, all of those interests whooshed away, and it was I'm meant to be here. And it was this amazing, beautiful feeling. So from then on, that was my freshman year in high school. I went back, I talked to my counselor. I'm like, how can I get to Paris one day? So what I did was I graduated high school early. I went to a community college, and I remember the moment that I found out they had a way to get me to Paris. So that summer of my 17th year, I studied abroad. And I was like, I did it. I'm here. And while I was there, you better believe I was looking for apartments. I was looking for universities. Like, I was trying to figure out, because my parents obviously weren't going to let me move there before I was even 18. But I was setting myself up. And when I was 18, I was back and I was like getting ready to move. While I was there, I was in a relationship with a man who was, I didn't know it at the time actually, he lied to me about his age. He was double my age. He didn't look it. He looked really young. He was an Egyptian man, but he had spent like 10 years living in Milan. So he was very Italian acting, and I loved his Egyptian culture. My brother-in-law was Turkish, so I was very drawn to all kinds of cultures. But yeah, we were in a relationship over that summer, and when I moved back, he was helping me find a place. And I found a place it took months to find a place, actually. I lived in a couple of hotel rooms and I stayed with him a little bit. It was like trying to find an apartment in Paris is like a whole thing. It's crazy. I finally found a place and I'm moving into this place, and all of a sudden maybe 2 months later, my gut was like, get out of this relationship. I actually didn't know he was double my age and all of these other things that were scary looking back now. But essentially, this man was very controlling. He got more and more and more controlling. And he left to go back to Egypt for a couple of weeks. And when he left, I had this whoosh of clarity. I need to get out of this relationship. There had been several things that had happened, like controlling things that had happened throughout the relationship. There were red flags that I probably should have known. But I was young, and I had actually tried to break up with him once before, and he talked me back into coming back with him, as they do. And I could see us getting married one day, like really pulled me back in. But when he left, I had this clarity, like, I need to get out of this relationship. So I called him and I said, hey, look, like, I'm young, like, this is not working for me. And he was like, you cannot break up with me. And I was like, what do you mean? He's, you cannot. I'm going to marry you. And he had tried to take me to Egypt that time, actually. But I lost my passport and I had to go to the consulate, like, to get a new one. So luckily I didn't go because I didn't know the crazy that was about to come out. That night, I went out with my friend and she dropped me back home. And when I got home, there were men standing on all the corners of where my apartment was. They were his Arabic, like his cousins and friends, I guess, that he did business with. And I thought, why? There was like a white van parked and there were these men, and it was right next to my apartment door. And I was like on different sides of the street. And they were standing behind the building. If I would have been coming up the metro like I normally do, I wouldn't have seen them. So thank God my friend dropped me off. And as I got out of the car, I saw them look at each other. I noticed them. They noticed me. They look at each other and they start to move a bit. And I got back in the car and told my friend, I was like, something's not right. I got to move on and see what's going on here. I just tried to break up with this man, and now these men are standing here. What's happening? So my red flags inside I was like, something's not right. I felt it. We went away. We went out to eat. We went shopping a little bit. We came back like 4 hours later. They were still there.
Wow.
So at that time, I was like, I can't go back home. Like, his friend owned the apartment that I lived in.
Oh my gosh.
Like, all of a sudden it hit me, like, I was not safe. He knew where I was going to college. Like, how would I avoid this person if he was like, you can't break up with me, like, gonna get me? And so I went to a hotel, and I remember telling the man, I was crying. I was like, I'm so scared. There are people waiting for me at my apartment. I can't buy a hotel room on my credit card that I have for emergency money because my dad is going to be like, back home, what are you doing? Like, why are you spending for a hotel room? What's going on? And then if he knew what was going on, he would make me move home. So I was crying to this guy, and he came and he gave me a hug. He was a much older man. He was probably in his 60s. He came and gave me a hug, and he started trying to kiss me.
Oh my God.
I'm not kidding you. And I was like, what is happening right now? I was literally asking him in my very broken, like, trying to piece it together French while I'm crying. I was trying to ask him if I could just stay there in the lobby, like, just while I figure out what I'm going to do. And so what did I do? I went back home, but I hid behind cars all the way. And they were still there. And I snuck in the back door, and I was terrified because I didn't know if like someone was waiting for me in my apartment. This is probably stupid. And I went upstairs, and I never turned the lights on, and they kept looking up. And I was like, they're 100% waiting for me. So I called my parents, and I was like, I'm in a bad situation. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they put me on a flight the next day. And so just like that, actually,
Honey.
I know. Just like that dream was just gone.
Oh.
The first place that I had ever belonged. And my whole life was meant to be there. I left in the middle of a semester of school. Like I left all my things behind. It was just heartbreaking.
Oh.
So, over 20 years later, I wish, looking back, the university that I went to had 7 different campuses in other countries. I wish I would have transferred, but I was so terrified at that time. All I could think about was just getting home. And I was not a scared person. I traveled to Europe when I was 15 over the summer to be with my friend. My best friend lived in Germany. Like, I would go on these trips. Like, looking back now, I'm like, how did I just go by myself on a flight at 15, 16, move there at 17, like 18? There was no fear in me. And then when this situation happened, it was like, wow, the world can be a scary place. And from then on, the guy that was waiting on me when I went home, my only friend, was the guy I ended up marrying. He got me through a really dark, scary moment when I came back. But I also think that and I'm grateful I did, because he's the father of 2 of my children. But I don't think I would have married him. I don't think that he was that wasn't the path of my like most aligned life. And all these years later, my husband has never been to Paris. And my husband he was born in South Africa, and he's Scottish. He's traveled all over the world. He has clients all over the world. And miraculously, he's never been to Paris. And I know this, and I've always said, we're going to go back to Paris one day together. I'm going to go back, face my fears, walk the streets, and you're going to get to see the city that changed my life in the good and the bad ways. And so, yeah, in all of that, 4 weeks... I cannot believe I've talked this whole entire time. You haven't even asked me one question.
I'm so intrigued. Keep going.
So 4 weeks in, 4 times over the last year, he has said to me that he has a client that he needs to meet in Paris, and he might be going. And we have 4 teenagers. It's a lot for me to just go along with him on a trip, because we have to coordinate a lot of things. And so, as much as I would love to go on all of them, so it's funny, it kept getting moved, and it got rescheduled just recently to our anniversary week. And he said to me, you got to come with me. And I'm like, of course I've got to come with you. This is happening. And then obviously I freaked out inside, because as much as I want to go back there, my feeling was like all of that shock and everything that set me on such a different path of feeling like the world is a scary place, and that I'm not safe to navigate it myself, that if I follow my heart, it might lead me to danger. There were so many patterns that I think got set into motion when that situation happened. I can't trust myself, like all of these things. And when I went back there, luckily I only found out 2 weeks before we were going, because if I would have found out longer, I think I would have psyched myself out and been so stressed. So I walked back down that street, and you know what I said? First of all, my heart was like so happy in that city. I was like, I'm home. Like, I wasn't scared. Sorry. So many emotions. I didn't even expect it. I wasn't even feeling all of that heaviness. I wasn't looking around the corner for him. I wasn't feeling the pain. I didn't realize I've done some work around this, because that feeling of belonging, like feeling taken away from me, and that heart connect. And actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar with cartography, but Paris is on my like heart line, on my love line. So it's no wonder that this place on the astrological map for me is like a place of heart, connect, and love. And so, yeah, it was this beautiful trip. And I really feel like I reclaimed and set the intention to heal all those patterns and go back and reclaim all that was meant for me from the beautiful things. And I do believe everything happens for a reason. And there were so many silver linings of the path that I have taken. But it just feels amazing to go back and be like, okay, like that was a detour,
Yeah.
20 plus year detour, but I'm back and obviously I'm not moving there. But as much as I love nature now and appreciate where I live, there's something so special about that city. And it surprised me how much I love it still. I honestly just thought it would just be like an experience and I didn't know what to expect. But I just kept feeling like, I'm not ready to leave. I don't want to leave yet. And obviously I had to come home, but I did feel sad when I got back. It's been a lot to process over the last week, just coming back home and feeling a little bit of that trigger of having to come back home. Funny enough, but it reminds me of that. But it's been a journey.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Wow, that's a lot. That's intense.
Yeah.
Have you ever found out, like, how often were you looking over your shoulder with this man? Even when you went back home at 17?
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I used to be so scared. Oh, I didn't even think about that in telling this story. I used to think I would see him.
Yeah.
Because he visited my family. Like, he had been home here to meet my family and stuff. And yeah, and I didn't know first of all, he was cheating on me with all these women I found on his phone. I had figured out some things and they were all like American girls that were like 18, 19. Like, it was scary.
Wow.
So that's when I realized I got to get out. This is not, something's just, I don't know if he was taking these women to Egypt. I honestly don't know, but it was very scary.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't ever run into him again, but I did fear that he was going to come get me because he was that kind of person. No, we are meant to be together and I love you and I'm going to marry you and you cannot leave me. And I was like, that's what a girl wants to hear, but then it's also, oh, like he means it in like a scary way. Yeah. Like, uh-oh.
And it just makes me so sad. Like, I think of your 15-year-old self who saw that street with the little garden and you're like, you're so naive and so clear and excited for life. And then just how
I made it like my journey from feeling not okay in this world to like finding my place to then that getting like taken away.
Ripped away from you.
Yeah.
What do you think was the reasoning behind having that person? Was the universe, like, do you ever think, you never wonder, like, why did this happen? But was there a lesson here from the universe, was there a lesson that you ended up picking up from this?
Yeah, so I definitely can boil it down to a couple of things. Our paths are windy ones, but I think that amount of trauma triggered me to face things that had happened in my childhood that I had never. There were patterns, and I've said this before, maybe I've said it on here before, like in my family, like of control and different things that were really unhealthy that were showing up in this relationship. And so it's interesting because wherever you go, there you are, really. And I thought that going away, it gave me a lot of clarity on some dynamics happening in my family that I grew up in. And then when I went away, I landed myself right back. Even the friend that I had that was driving me that night, and I wasn't physically abused, but her boyfriend had been she came to school with a black guy and she was my best friend there. That was what I was attracting at that time. The person helping me was in an abusive relationship. That's to show you where I was at in that time in my life. I wasn't like the guy in the thing, like in the hotel. I went to ask for help and he wanted to take advantage of me too. Like, I was so vulnerable and attracting people that were just being manipulative and taking advantage for themselves. And it was scary. It was a dark time, but I think I had to dig in deep and even one day be able to share my story around my marriage. But there was a lot of like trauma that was triggered for my ex-husband, which is one of the biggest reasons why we ended up divorcing. And I had to get away from that because he wasn't willing to face that. So all of these relationships have a similar pattern and story. And I was forced to say, okay, there's something in me that's attracting this. And it's not just about the place. I can go anywhere in the world and I'm going to attract the same interaction with people. I am putting something off, something out there that is like making people want to control me, manipulate me, do scary things to me. So I need to, and in the name of protecting me, oddly, which is what's so effed up. So yeah, that was the pattern, and I had to work through that in a big way. So now when I went there, like that pattern obviously wasn't showing up. And it's not a present pattern in my life because I've done so much work around that, but it's not been an overnight easy thing.
This happened to you when you were so young.
Yeah.
Like 17, 18, like you're a baby. And then to know that how old were you when you knew that this is patterning? Because you were so young. Like innately you have it in you that you are a higher
soul. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was when my daughter was born and my ex-husband like emotionally vanished. And then those patterns started coming out, because before then he was really good at being who I thought that he could be or should be. He was like almost putting on an act for that. So it was when that all started crumbling apart. I think it was having children that brought the patterns to light so much for me, and seeing how they were going through the same things, how people were treating them. Even in those really early days, it was like, I got to figure this out. And I started doing research. Like I was looking in, obviously, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life, like Abraham Hicks, like a lot of research on that. But it was this Chinese medicine doctor who was very intuitive, was like, hey, was there abuse in your history? And she was telling me, because my daughter had head to toe rashes and we were starting to clear patterns. And I was like, what is this? And she was like, you have different markers on you from ancestral stuff, from your body is like attracting things because you have markers on you. And I was like, what? And so it was then, so I guess I was like 24 when I started, like 27. Around about 24 to 27, when my daughter was a toddler and I was going through figuring out pattern work and how that all happened. And then it was like when I went through divorce and all of that, it was a much deeper dealing with feeling safe in the world again and like all of that stuff. So it was a much deeper understanding of patterns at that point. And now it's like the work that I do with all my clients, like unraveling patterns and how we attract and manifest through that.
Yeah. Gosh. So would you say that is the main thing that you have done to help heal yourself, is pattern work when it comes to trauma and what you experienced?
Yes. But I would say the main thing is like learning how to love myself and being slow enough to really get to know her, because I used to be so busy and go, like I was good at staying so busy that I couldn't even touch down or feel things. Yeah. So I think the self-love piece, especially getting prepared for the marriage that I have now, which is a super healthy, wonderful, soul-aligned relationship. It's like a freaking miracle, honestly. Every day I'm like, it gets better. That journey has been incredible. But it was the self-love, and I think the self-worth, and like really coming into embodying that and making decisions from that place instead of the people pleasing, which was the pattern too.
Yeah. Gosh, I think that's so important. And I know everyone's probably, what did you do? What are the steps? Walk me through the steps so I can have a soul-aligned relationship too. Because you were young. You met Dean what? How old were you?
So it was 8 years ago. So I was 32.
That's so young. Yeah. And all the work that you had to do, that you did for yourself before, I just feel
like... Oh my gosh, it was painful. But it was so worth it. Like,
that's the thing. You just see the instant gratification. You assume, like, Valentina's here, instant gratification. That's how she was born, like this. It's when she just does this work for people. It's like, it truly is. The work that we do for people, that so many people do, is because you've gone through it and you want to help others get through it and reclaim why your soul has been brought here.
Really. Yeah, you feel like you don't have a choice. It just calls to you.
Yeah, and then you're like, I have to tell people about this.
Yeah.
And
that's
help
why I'm
people.
so grateful to have this podcast, because I've never been able to share this story. This is my first time telling this story.
And I've never heard this story before.
That's true.
Yeah, I wanted it to be so raw. I think it's so important. And it's so crazy because I
like everything.
Yeah. And
but not that.
It's so interesting because, not to bring it on me, but I have a similar story of how I had to flee Dubai. And
oh God, you can't make this up.
You can. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's just so interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that
later.
You're
my second best friend has had to flee Dubai.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
We have to talk about that.
Exactly. But it's funny because, like, just briefly, when my friend who I went there with, she went back to the apartment and she shipped my stuff because I had to leave all my stuff. And she shipped my stuff. And when it came to my door at my apartment, because I moved back to Los Angeles, I didn't have any emotion. Like, I was sad that I had to leave Dubai because I was going to be this international businesswoman. And I was just moving back into my life in LA. And then when my boxes came, I opened them up and I started crying. Aww. It was just like, you don't realize the energy, the emotions that are just inside of you, that you're like, you don't know that you have to process it. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. I'm not going to be able to go back. That's a bummer. No, it's way more
heartbreaking
than
it's
that.
More than a bummer.
Right. But I was someone who's like, I don't cry. I'm never sad. Like, I never want to tap into those emotions. So I opened this box and all of a sudden I started crying. And it was, wow. So there's whether your experience is as traumatic as yours or not as traumatic, there's so much living that lives inside of us. So there's our actual reality of what's happening to us. But then, like you were saying, ancestral stuff is underneath that might have triggered that.
Yep.
And you were showing
and like our childhood patterns.
Yeah.
Things that got into place, like our subconscious is playing all of these things out without us knowing. Yeah.
Gosh, it's insane. So
all these movies we watch and all of our parents' interactions and everything, we just mimic so much of that.
So
it's just is like we decide what we want to play out and we just go for it.
Movies. There was a movie I watched the other day and it made me so depressed just because I'm like,
I can't watch depressing movies.
No, it was
sad for like a week.
It was happy, but it made me depressed about a part of my life. And I'm like, man, I want it to be like that. So it's like visioning. It could be on good things. But anyway, if there's a couple things, because we are talking about trauma, if there's a couple things that if someone had a similar experience or going through something where they know they have leftover energy stuck inside of them from something that happened in their past, what is a good 2 steps for them to do right now that they can do every day to help clear that out?
Okay, yeah. I think journaling has been a huge, like, just giving yourself the space to just write without judging. And tapping has been a really wonderful tool. That's one that I think one of the biggest tools and then self-love practices, which can look like at the time that I was most depressed, like deeply heartbroken, I was living in LA and I knew my marriage wasn't safe for me to continue on with. But it was heartbreaking, and I was like, I've got to make a list of things that make me happy, and I'm going to start doing one every day. Mm-hmm. And it was like, stand in the sun for 10 minutes and listen to the song that makes me happy, or give yourself a period of time every day to grieve, to feel the feelings, and maybe listen to the song that is going to trigger that. So making space to process emotions, taking care, like with self-love, acts of self-love and tapping, I think have been huge. And then recently I've done a couple of sessions over the last year with our friend Kristen, who does aroma freedom technique and using essential oils to unlock those traumatic memories. I also do emotion code, body code work. That's really helpful to muscle test the emotions that are linked and not fully processed and holding the frequency in the body. So that can cause disease, that can cause symptoms, and it also can just have the frequency still active and attracting that same pattern again in different ways. So those are some of the ways that I've really broken through a lot of these patterns. And awareness and intention is also extremely powerful. So just noticing something is step one, and acknowledging it. And then having an intention of, I want it to be different, so I'm open to that. And then it can start unraveling. So even if that's all you do.
Yeah. And I also think that starting to step into what you're scared of doing, so you can step through that and create the courage that'll, like, if there's something, like even you going to Paris.
Oh, yeah.
Like if
and I
you
flew
said,
by myself.
Yeah.
So I was like, deep breaths.
Right.
We're going to do
and
this.
now it's like you step through it and
Yeah.
you came out the other side. And I think that's important, is that fear just locks us in on so many levels that cause us such pain, where we just have to have the courage to step through that.
Yeah. And building your intuition so you're not acting from fear. Learning how to hear your intuition, that
Yes.
whisper versus the
Yes.
fear that's yelling at us. I just had someone tell me that the other day. That's how you can know it's your intuition. It's a whisper, not a yell.
Not a yell. Yeah. I'm always yelling, tell me what to do. And it's
like a little feeling in
Right.
your gut. So gentle. Yeah. Thank you for giving me the space to have this conversation. I honestly didn't know what was going to come out. And when I came back, I was like, I know I need to share it. Susan, we got to do this. But it's not that big of a deal, but it is that big of a deal, because it's like, it's hard to tell a story that has emotional charge, because you don't know what details to put in, or you end up way over here. Oh yeah, I'm telling you this story. It's just, you lose your sense of control of the situation. So thank you all for listening.
Yeah, you said exactly what needed to be heard, to share with at least one of you that is out there needed to hear this. And that's why we do this podcast.
I love that. I'm so grateful for you. And for our audience, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Warm fuzzies today.
We'll talk next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Gals Off the Grid podcast. If this episode resonated with you, take a moment to breathe it in, ground yourself, and carry this wisdom into your daily life. Remember, true freedom begins when you reconnect with yourself, with nature, and with the community that lifts you higher.
If you loved this conversation, share it with a fellow high-frequency friend and leave us a review. It helps us reach more women ready to step into their power. And if you're craving deeper connection, join us inside of our offline community for so much more support and connection. You can find all the details at galsoffthegrid.com.
Until next time, stay grounded, stay aligned, and keep exploring your deeper truth. We'll see you off the grid.